set! Hey, welcome to the Out About Podcast. I am Patrick, and you all know my co-host, Chile.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing tonight? Today, this afternoon, this morning,
whenever it is.
whenever it is.
And that's when you're watching.
Yeah.
Whatever time it is, that's
Good.
what time it is.
Good that.
Yes. And welcome to the podcast. My producer, my one of my close friends, aficionado, new carrier trader. Anyways, Jer Bear.
What's up, everyone?
Well, let's get right into it. So, first and foremost, Jerry, explain your hat.
So, being that I am now an employee at Hyfield Trucking, to help out whenever I am needed to help move trucks, I got applied and approved for Panther Premium Logistics. It's the only other carrier in my expediting career that I've ever been part of besides FedEx Custom Critical. And I have to say I like them. So I got some swag today, got my cup, got my hat.
Welcome to the team.
Yes,
we
welcome.
appreciate having you on our side.
Welcome to the dark side.
The dark side. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have the purple promise here.
They don't.
I was about to say the dark side, literally.
Literally, the dark side.
I wasn't being sarcastic.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, very cool. Welcome over. Was there any did you feel as you're doing the application and watching the modules and you got to go to your drug test and everything? Did you feel any I'm cheating on my OG?
Just a little.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Yeah.
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 I
It's
mean,
funny.
there's a part of my heart that's FedEx,
Yeah.
and always will be.
When I applied for the FedEx side to be able to drive the FedEx trucks as well, I felt kind of the same way. I think I was cheating on Panther a little bit.
That's hysterical.
Although I go to Panther and get trucks branded and talk to people that I knew and know, and I still feel welcome there. I've never met a single person from FedEx.
Anyways, so we're gonna leave that alone. No, I remember that when Eric and I went over to Panther and we started working with them and then and going to drive for them, going through orientation. That was all in-house orientation, so we were inside the building and the nervousness
Sure.
and you could just definitely tell there was a culture difference there.
Mm-hmm.
So at FedEx, you're required to wear business casual, slacks, polo shirt, button up if you have it.
Right.
Until they give you your official uniform shirt, then you're supposed to wear your uniform shirt your next day. And their classroom is very corporate America, nice tables and everything's just so. Then I go, and it's in the corner room, so you got glass everywhere. It's really nice. They bring all their corporate trainers out there and do everything right. And then I go over to Panther, and there's load bars on the wall.
Right.
There's they did a row of E-Track so they could show you how this is the proper way to strap down cargo. Here's how to do trucking the way we want you to do it.
Right.
And it was very tire marks on the floor showing you where to go. They put them there intentionally, and everything was just real trucker centric. And it was oh yeah, this is going to be a culture change.
Big difference.
Big difference. But I liked it a lot. I loved the going through the process, and it was fun. One thing they said at the beginning of the class was, I don't care what carrier you came from. I don't want to hear that's not the way we used to do it.
Right.
And it was interesting because you would sit through class, and some people would not. But we didn't do it that way at. I don't care. This is how we do it. Yeah. But it was it was really cool to see the difference in those two. And then, that one was very personal. Now that we've been to a few different carriers over the years, it's kind of lost that personal touch.
Sure.
And so for me, it's a little easier to bounce back and forth or what have you. But yeah, I do remember that little tinge of I'm cheating on my other. And
is it true the quality of the lunch was different between FedEx and Panther? So we Melissa and I did Panther in-person orientation, and they actually gave us a menu of a local carryout place. It was an Italian place, pizza, salads, that
Subway,
kind of thing.
sub sandwiches.
Sub sandwiches, yeah. And so you had options of what you wanted. I hear that FedEx was a much more gourmet lunch choice orientation.
I'm curious to hear about Jared Bear's experience because he had his experience at FedEx 22, 23 years before I did.
Right.
So So when I went,
They hadn't discovered fire yet.
yeah, they hadn't figured out gas yet. So they're like bringing the
gotcha.
logs in and burning them on the grill for them. But no, how was your experience at FedEx when you came over?
FedEx has a pretty big cafeteria, and they have the, they have a whole salad bar. They
Right.
had a place that was like hamburgers and French fries,
grill.
and a grill
Alright,
cooked to
yeah.
order. Then they usually had like nicer dishes that they've prepared.
It was kind of a blue plate special, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, right? Like
Gotcha.
they had a couple options a day.
Okay.
There wasn't like 30 options. It was like one or two.
Sure.
Yeah, it would always be, like you said, 1, 2, maybe 3 options that would
Yeah.
be like a really nice plate, like a meat, vegetable type thing.
Yeah, maybe like I remember a chicken fried steak with some gravy on it was one time, and I want to say maybe baby back ribs or one time.
Wow.
Don't get too
Wow.
excited. This is cafeteria.
Chili's,
Exactly
baby
right.
back
That's
ribs,
exactly right. Yeah. So
barbecue sauce.
that was my experience too. So it was their company's cafeteria,
Oh,
and so everything was dirt cheap.
okay.
That was one thing I admired. I was like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
I wondered how you could pull this off because who's going to spend, $15 a day for lunch? No.
Yeah.
The freaking blue plate special was like $6.
Yeah. So it was
You
probably
know,
subsidized.
Yes, it was. They were in no way interested in making money.
Right.
It was
Just
strictly
feed your people.
just feed your
keep
people,
here
make them
in
happy.
the building.
Yep. Very Silicon Valley, that kind of
Yes,
attitude.
I was going to say that was very similar to what Apple had, but on a smaller scale. They had the entree station that usually had 2 different entree choices plus a vegan option.
Yeah.
They had the sushi section where you filled out the sushi card like you would at a restaurant what you wanted, and they made it for you right there. They also had soba noodles that were made fresh in the morning. They had a personal pizza station where you told them what you wanted on your pizza, and they made it right there in the brick oven. There was a huge salad bar. They had a burrito station where you could get your burritos. It was pretty impressive. I missed that.
Yeah,
When are we doing the Hyfield
it was
cafeteria?
right. No, this was way smaller than that.
Yeah.
But it was nice. It was good. It made sense. But everything was so cheap that what they would do is they would give you, was it $10? I think it was a little yellow
Okay.
strip of paper, and it was $10, and she
Right.
signed it. And so you go spend $10. And I remember asking her one time, I was like, "Why give you $10? You don't need it."
Right.
And you could just say, "Here's one meal."
Yeah.
Because you would end up with bags of potato chips and candy bars and Rice
Sure.
Krispie treats. And I mean, $10 in that cafeteria went a long way.
Yeah, I bet.
And towards when I went for refresher courses, they bumped it to $15, and it went a really long way. So I asked her, like, I was asking one of the ladies one time, I was like, why do they do it this way? And she said it's for some people who come in here with nothing.
Right.
And she said, honestly, it's so we know they're going to get a meal.
Yeah.
Both days they're here, they're going to get a meal, and they're going to be able to fill their truck up with some of this stuff
Right.
because a lot of truck owners and people, they don't really care. So
Yeah,
just come over here
sure.
and if you have to go a week before you eat, that's fine.
Yeah.
And FedEx was not fine with that.
No.
And so that is why they did it that way. Now I will say, obviously they've gone online, so that's not a situation anymore. But they have closed that cafe and they are not opening it again.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
that is a thing of the past, unfortunately. They actually have the same kind of situation Panther has, which did you get a tour of the Panther building?
I did not go to Panther.
Oh, okay. You did
everything's
online? Okay, cool. When you go to Panther, sometimes, depending on what they're doing in the building, sometimes they'll let you do a tour of it.
Mhm.
There's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes they'll let you do it, sometimes they won't if whatever's going on. I think it really has to do with if someone's available.
Right.
And so I've walked out through their building a few times,
Mhm.
and their cafeteria is a wall of vending machines, and they have a little checkout register place,
Yeah.
but it's still fresh food. Like they still come in, and the deli sandwiches are, you might get a sandwich that's 2 days old at the most.
Right.
Everything's fresh. The salads are fresh. They're constantly refreshed. They have fresh fruit there. They have vegetables there. Like you can actually get stuff and check out and pay there.
Yeah.
Not as good, but I was shocked. I mean, I'm used to.
Still some
You
decent
remember that?
options.
Remember the vending machine that was square and it had
Yeah.
a big round Lazy Susan in the middle of it, and then you would just go like, "That sandwich will do," and you
And the door
punch your
would
number.
open?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that, and so I was kind of expecting like that's going to be what they have, but no, this was stinking nice. So one of our listeners reached out to us, and they asked us if we could please address something that's going on in freight right now, which you and I talked about it, and have no clue about.
No clue.
None. So we did what every good investigative journalist does.
Yes.
And we read one article.
Just the one.
With the shortest word count, I might add. Because we didn't have all day. And we thought, we've read one article about a situation.
No, we're experts.
We're experts. Let's have some
do
editorial commentary.
Let's do that.
I have opinions. Do you have opinions?
I have lots of opinions.
I love opinions.
No. On this story, not really, but yeah, I have opinions.
I will make them up as we go.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Live.
Challenge accepted.
United Parcel Service. You may know them as UPS.
What can Brown do for you?
Well, I'll tell you what they can do.
Deliver
They can keep up the good
packages.
work. They can keep up the
Exactly.
good work because I tell you right now, they're the best deliverer. They do better than Amazon right now.
I do.
So, UPS drivers move closer to a strike after negotiations break down at 4 a.m. amongst finger pointing. From what I understand, on July the 5th, the Teamsters and UPS had a deadline saying we're going to negotiate this contract, and by this deadline, that way they have time to analyze everything and get it to their members and get it to their employees that are represented by the Teamsters to vote on it before July 31st.
Right.
So the 5th was their deadline to just wrap it up. This is what we're presenting to the teams, the
members.
drivers, the members,
Yeah.
and at that point, then they can vote on it, yes or no, right?
Right.
At 4 a.m. 4 a.m. Can we just talk for a second? Who is negotiating contracts at 4 a.m.?
Been there, done that.
Really?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Been there, done that.
Oh, we'll go on.
So back in the day,
Yes.
when I was out living in Los Angeles still, I worked for a company that built electric trains, and we were negotiating with the union.
As you do.
And we got to the point where if we didn't have a contract in place by a certain date, then we went to arbitration. And really neither side wants arbitration. So what you do in arbitration at that point is you bring your best
Negotiator?
your best contract offer
okay.
to the arbitrator, and they take the pieces that they think are going to be best fit, and they build your contract for you. You don't want somebody else making your contract. You want to negotiate it. So our last-ditch effort to make this contract before our arbitration date, we went, I forget the exact number, but it was like 26 hours of negotiating. And this negotiating is one side brings an offer to the table, it's discussed, you break into your own group and you talk about it. The other side then brings a contract to the table, it's discussed, and you talk about it, and you go back and forth that way. And we literally went 26 hours before we came to an agreement on a contract.
Are you physically in a room?
You're physically in a room together.
Okay.
And then you go to your own separate rooms.
But same building.
Same building. You go to your own separate rooms to have this conversation. So most of our negotiations took place in an attorney's office, where the big meeting was in a big conference room, and then I want to say that one team would go to a different, smaller room and talk, and the other team would stay in the conference room and talk, and then you come back together. Our last day was actually in the union hall. Union side, I'm sorry, it was the employer side had one of the offices in the union hall, and then the members had another office in the union hall that we would adjourn to have our conversation.
Makes sense.
And then we came back into the hall itself to do our negotiations across a big table.
It just makes me think of like the West Wing, or was it The American President, or Veep, for those
Sure.
of you that give up with that, of just like all these politicians getting together, meeting
Mhm.
around the big, hardwood table,
Right.
yelling at each other, and then, well, take this and you consider that, and then they walk off and they go to their other room and they're like, okay, we have to act like we're considering it, but we're in no way at all considering it. But we have to at least you look at me and you talk like you're talking to me, and we're
Right.
having a conversation.
Yeah.
And, oh, look, they think we're talking about this,
Right.
when really there's not a chance. That's fascinating, man. I don't want that kind of. I mean, do you tag team off like, I'm going to go get some sleep?
We didn't. We kept going all night.
So
now I can't
ideal
speak-
contract is made by people who have not slept for at least 26 hours.
I can't speak for the other side because they were in their own room. I do know though that the company, their representatives did come back a couple at late night. Like they had changed clothes. They had brought a change of clothes, and one of them may have been in pajamas.
That's actually smart. If you think
I
about
agree.
it, going
Completely
in,
agree.
well, not the pajamas part, that's
Oh, no, but
unprofessional,
comfortable.
comfortable. And then
Yeah.
also, like, You know, you ever had a really crazy hard day and you go back home, you take a shower, and then you go and do another thing like record a podcast?
Yeah, maybe.
That shower just it's like starting anew, right?
Is
like you're
it?
starting all over again. And it gives you it's like Red Bull, it gives you wings. So I do understand that. Like if I can, and not only that, but there's a psychological element to that, right? If you're negotiating with someone,
Sure.
and they go and they take a shower and they come back freshly
Fresh.
charged and
Yeah.
clean clothes, it's a little intimidating, right?
Can be.
I totally see that. I think it makes sense. Well, these did not work.
No.
UPS was like, we're not doing this.
Right.
Teamsters were like, we're not doing this. And at 4 a.m., they were like, peace out.
It's interesting, too, that both sides are saying the other one,
I know.
stop talking.
I want to see security footage.
Yeah,
I
right?
want to see who literally closed their book,
Yeah.
put it in their briefcase, and walked out the room.
Yep. I'm done.
That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah,
They'll
I am
never
too.
release that
Never.
because they're both saying
Never.
that each person did it.
Yeah. Well, and
sorry?
that's a big part of this, too, right, is posturing.
Yes.
You know, I want my side to look the best. You want your side to look the best. No one will know the truth except for us.
Yes.
So I'm going to posture and say it was your fault you walked out.
100%.
And you're going to posture and say it was my fault I
Yes.
walked out. And now who knows? It's up in the air. Which side are you on? So that's interesting. Very interesting.
I think it's very interesting. And the fact that we still have, quite a few days. The 31st is still a long ways away
Sure, it is.
before the contract expires. I don't know. So the big thing that's got everybody concerned is that in June, 97% of UPS members that are in the Teamsters authorized a strike. Now, I got to say, because I don't follow trucking unions too much because they don't really relate to the industry I'm in.
Yeah.
I know they're out there, but there's not a whole lot of that in our industry. It is typically your pickup and delivery, your people that are home every night, kind of.
Right.
Those are the ones
Yeah.
that typically unionize. So it's not very common. And you got companies like FedEx; it's not union at all.
Not at all.
They treat their employees well enough that their
Don't
employees
need
keep
one.
saying, "Yeah, we don't want to unionize," and it drives Teamsters crazy. But UPS unionized ages ago,
Long time ago.
long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
So for them, so I do follow these unions on airplanes, right? Obviously, it's been well established.
Sure.
I'm an airplane geek,
Right.
and flight attendants, pilots, even people that work
Ground
like
crew.
a ground crew,
Yeah.
people that work at
Flight,
the
gate agents.
gate agents. Yes, most of those are unionized. And mechanics,
Right.
all that stuff. There, a lot of them are unionized. And it's actually one of the things, side note, Delta's flight attendants are not unionized. They're one of the few holdouts that have said, Delta treats us good enough. We don't have
We're
a
good.
reason to
Yeah.
unionize. And so they never
Yeah.
have. But they're one of the very few people that haven't left in the industry. So anyways, in these negotiations, almost everybody votes to strike. Because all they're saying is that, hey, we're now agreeing that that we're for striking,
Right.
and it gives the contract weight.
Sure.
If 50% of the people said we're going to strike, if 50% said we're not, the Teamsters could never go strike.
No, they couldn't.
If
They couldn't.
20% said let's strike and 80% said no, we're happy.
Right.
Well,
No
the
strike.
negotiations are over.
Over.
The UPS is going to walk in the room and go, "Oh, we're keeping things the same,"
Yeah.
and they'd be like, okay." You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
So that is why the vote to strike is so important. They're not saying we're going to strike; they're just saying we're willing to strike.
Right.
Should it come
Should it come
up?
to it? Yeah.
But
But the larger percentage of people that approve the strike, then the more urgency it puts on
100%.
the company, on UPS, to get this contract done.
Yeah, if 97% of the Teamsters actually did strike,
Right.
it would
shut down UPS.
It would shut down UPS. And they actually talked about in 1997, they did shut down for 15 days, and it killed UPS. I mean, they fought for years to get out of that situation. A lot of people are wondering, hey, is this really going to happen? And if so, what are the implications of that, right? The way I understand it, and if I'm wrong, you have more experience than I do, they have really until the 31st before a strike's even possible, right?
Yes.
So I understand they would like a contract by the 5th, but I think that date is out there. I don't say fictitiously, but it's like, hey, here's a target. We all know we're not going to hit it,
Right.
But
But
here's a target.
sure.
now it's up to, probably UPS in this case, I would assume, or not. I guess not necessarily. They're both going to hold out as long as they can, right?
Yes.
I would assume UPS has on a big whiteboard behind them a date written on the whiteboard, and nobody can see what that date is. And their lawyers know at this date, at this time,
we have to go back.
We have to go back to the table. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
and they're going to go there with a weakened position. Teamsters have to do the same.
They do.
97% of people authorized a strike. How many people can afford to be out of work for?
And that's why the Teamsters have to do the same thing. They have to have that date on the board as well to say, okay, this is truly our drop dead. We have to go back to the table by this date to get talks going, because the Teamsters don't want their employees, their members having to go on strike because they don't get paid. Yeah, there's strike funds and that kind of thing, but it's not going to take care of your regular scheduled paycheck with that strike fund. So the Teamsters don't want their members out there, because that then weakens the union, because now it's I'm a UPS driver and my union's going on strike and can't come to a deal. They're not doing what I need for them. Now I have a little less faith in union, possibly.
Yes.
Now there are those that don't. There are those hardcore union members that are like, I'm going on strike regardless of what happens. But yes, the Teamsters also have that date on the board as well. The first one to talk is the weaker position.
Yes.
So if UPS comes out, if their date is July 14th and the Teamsters date's July 15th, and UPS comes out and says, okay, we're ready to go back to the table, they're weaker.
Yeah.
If they hold off, if their date's the 16th, and the Teamsters come out and say, hey, we're going to the table, then yes, they have the weaker position. So ultimately, nobody wants a strike. UPS doesn't want to strike. The Teamsters don't want to strike. They want to come to a deal.
Correct.
I mentioned earlier that we had an arbitration clause, and we were establishing our first contract. So in that agreement to negotiate a contract, we had an arbitration clause. At a certain date, we went to arbitration. I don't know what their negotiations look like, if they have that clause, or if it's just we have a contract by this date or we strike. Generally speaking, if a contract isn't established by the 31st and there is no strike, the current contract continues until there is a new contract in place. Well, so a strike isn't guaranteed, but the members being the drivers have agreed that yes, if they've given the Teamsters authority to call a strike when after the 31st and the contract is up, the Teamsters can then call a strike at any point. They don't have to ask again. They can call that strike. Now, the Teamsters are saying that their July 5th deadline is in order to get their members' approval on the contract, which is, it seems like a lot of time to me, honestly, especially today where you can email all the members a PDF of the contract. Yeah. Yes, they're going to want to have meetings locally. And UPS is a nationwide company, so they're going to want to have meetings locally with their local.
But you can wrap all that up in a week.
In theory, yes, you can. Give your members time to review this stuff. They have conversations in a meeting of their local, and then have that vote, and that vote goes back to the national, and they they tally the votes and do it. So yeah, it seems like that 5th date is a little premature, but again, posturing. They're giving themselves time to posture and see who ultimately has the stronger position.
Yeah, and even UPS said we have nearly a month left to negotiate, and we have not walked away from the table.
There's still time.
The union has a responsibility to remain at the table, so they are doing the finger pointing. I am curious what the time frame of the contract would be. Like, are they going to be negotiating a 5-year contract? Are they negotiating a 1-year contract? Like, what is that time frame that they are negotiating? Because there are some things that have already happened that are interesting. So they already have, UPS and union has already agreed to a couple of things I thought would never happen.
Right.
One, they've already talked about increasing salaries a little bit. They've already agreed to air conditioning the trucks. Are you kidding me?
That's huge.
That's massive.
Huge.
That is going to cost UPS
a lot,
millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Not just in installing the air conditioning in the trucks.
Operating cost.
Fuel costs,
yes,
are going to go up for UPS as well.
Yes,
definitely.
That's going to be that's something that's insane. Now I don't know if that's air conditioning across the entire country or just in the really hot environments, but still, it is crazy expensive.
Yep.
And then there's a 2-tier driver system. They say they pay weekly workers more than weekend.
They pay weekday workers
Weekday,
more than weekend drivers.
which I don't get because aren't the weekdays harder to cover? I guess they're not.
No.
I would think they would be.
You would think they'd pay the weekend drivers more.
Yes.
But those weekend drivers probably aren't getting full-time hours.
Well,
Just my guess.
So when I worked at Ferrer Fire Apparatus back in the day and built fire trucks, our weekday guys worked 40 hours a week. Weekday people worked 40 hours a week. And the weekend people worked 3 12s.
Okay.
So 36 hours.
Yeah.
And if you did all 36 hours, you got paid for 40.
Yeah.
And so
there's usually that incentive to work weekends or overnight shifts. There's usually an incentive for extra pay for those shifts.
So this is kind of saying the opposite. I wonder if it's just the whole like people think they can do the weekend as a side hustle.
Well, I think what happened here is weekend work. Let's go back. I don't know how many years it was before when UPS didn't do weekend deliveries.
Saturdays, Sundays. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. There was a long time where they didn't do the weekend deliveries. So probably what happened with a negotiation prior when the union agreed to allow for weekend workers, the union allowed to do it, but they part of the contract was to pay weekend workers less money.
I could see that.
So that's possibly what happened here is to allow UPS to deliver on weekends. They paid weekend workers less money because that pool of weekend workers made less work for the weekday workers because they didn't come Monday. You didn't have this huge backlog of stuff that got you that overtime.
Yeah.
So that's my guess. One thing that I saw here, the last contract was negotiated back in 2018.
I did see that.
So my guess is it's a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. My guess is a 5-year contract.
I could see that. The concern people have is what if people go on strike? If I'm a UPS employee, again, back when we were saying we don't want that to happen, Teamsters don't want that to happen. They handle 24. I didn't realize it was high. I really didn't. 24% of all of Amazon's deliveries.
Yeah, that's huge.
24%, a quarter of Amazon's deliveries.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if Amazon smells a strike, they're going to find another provider.
Yes, they are.
Or they're going to find another $1 billion to buy more trucks and more airplanes.
I think what happens short term is they overload their current drivers that aren't already overloaded.
Yes.
Yeah.
They handle it internally.
Sure.
And they'll just bump the dates. They also know at the same time, you and I, if we normally get a product that's next day, like there's a sugar thing you and I both get.
Right.
And we're on a subscription. If it's supposed to show up on Thursday, but it gets there on Friday, okay.
Well,
so if something that's next day ends up being 2 days, all right. Most of us, I think, are like, well, I would rather it tomorrow.
Sure.
But if I can't get it tomorrow, I'm still fine as long as I get it.
What's my choice?
We're not going to go to the store. We're not going to the store and buy something.
The store? What's the store?
Right. So I do think there's a degree of that within Amazon's system that's flexible. Like when I go buy something on Amazon, a lot of times it's not stuff I normally buy.
Sure.
And so I'm just kind of at the mercy of whatever it says. Yeah. If it says it's going to be here in 3 days, and I'm like, you're shipping a 40-pound object from Sacramento to my house for free in 3 days. All right. Yeah, I'm good with it.
I'll see it in 3 days.
Yeah, if I order that on Etsy, not Etsy, if I order that on any other platform, I'm paying $60 in shipping, and it's going to be here in a week.
Yeah, on a freight truck.
Yes.
That has to call ahead and schedule a time, and I got to be home to get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do think Amazon system has a little flexibility for that, but I can guarantee you, they strike, Amazon's going to strike them too.
I agree.
Amazon's going to be like,
it's going to hurt.
You're not going to have our business next year.
FedEx isn't doing business with them anymore.
FedEx isn't doing business with them anymore.
It's going to hurt.
But look, FedEx could.
They could. They could step right up and do it.
I think
take much.
It wouldn't take much, and I guarantee the people at FedEx in Memphis are sitting there watching this going, it's not going to happen. They're not going to strike.
No, they're not.
But if it does, I'm right here.
Here's a question.
You're going to pay a little more for it, but I'm right here.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
This gets us back to the original question that was asked by our friend out there.
Mm-hmm.
How does this strike? Let's go back a few seconds where we said we both agree that they're not going to strike. What if we're wrong and they do strike? How does that affect the expedite business, in your opinion?
Depends on how long the strike is.
Okay.
I think if they strike, it'll get nipped fast.
Okay.
I don't know what the demands are, but seeing what they're already willing to do,
sure,
I think it gets nipped real fast.
Yeah,
I think it's a day or two.
I
and it's
question
done.
too, if they've already agreed to these things
Yeah.
that we just talked about, what else are they asking for? I mean, I'm sure there are things they're asking for.
Sure.
But that to them are
There's health
significant.
insurance stuff. There's
Sure.
there's paid
So
off
that's
time. all that
what
good
else
stuff.
are we looking
Yeah.
at? So do we think that some of the non-delivery, not non-last mile things, the hub-to-hub things get picked up by somebody else? Do you think that affects us at all? I mean, when we had our COVID issues
Yes.
back in the day, seems so long ago now, I know that with Panther, Panther is a division of
ArcBest.
ArcBest, ABF Freight is a division of ArcBest. We did quite a bit of last mile stuff for ArcBest as Panther, not necessarily to residences, but to businesses. We did a lot of that stuff because ArcBest just had quite a bit, just the way things worked out. Do you think that FedEx Custom Critical or Panther picks up some of this stuff?
So I think it depends on how long that strike is.
Okay.
If it's a
I
day
think
or
you just said that. I'm sorry.
yeah, if it's a day or two,
No,
No.
of course not.
it just sits in the network and everything's
Right.
delayed. Same thing happens when one of those superstorms comes across America.
Sure.
You know, it has happened. I think about FedEx in particular, where it hits like one of those big hurricanes or whatever hits
Mm-hmm.
Memphis and Indianapolis, which
Right.
are FedEx's two major hubs in one night, and it just shuts everything down.
Right.
Everything gets delayed
And
a day.
And FedEx sends their customers, if you have a
Yes.
FedEx.com account, they send customers the warning, hey, service interruption, you might not see your stuff for
Yes.
a week.
Now the difference is when it comes to weather, that's usually kind of like
An act of God.
An act of God.
Sure.
So there's no penalty for it.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever seen a labor dispute written in a disclaimer. Is it going to hurt them financially? Yes. Are they going to have to pick up the pieces? Yes. I think it gets nipped fast. I don't see them going 15 days. 1997, it was
Different
a
market.
long
Different
time
market.
ago,
Yeah.
and they were a much smaller company.
Sure.
You know, that
Well,
was a tiny company in a segment of business that was new.
Right.
And so they had some flexibility. They were able to do some stuff. Today, it's a well-established, very mature market. And striking in those kind of situations where people are depending on it, if they're even allowed to strike. So a lot of people don't know, airlines, they never strike more than a day or two when it comes to pilots. Do you know why that is? Because they're essential to the national defense.
Okay.
And so if an airline strikes for too long, the government kicks in and says, go back to work. You don't have a choice. We'll arbitrate this. We'll get your contract fixed,
Right.
but get in that cockpit and fly the plane. So the same thing may be with UPS because what they're doing, I mean, you think about it, they're moving medical supplies. They're moving important documents critical to our infrastructure for the nation. I could easily see the government stepping in and going, nah, we ain't doing this. Get to work. You're not a small company anymore. You are now pivotal to the infrastructure of America.
So do you think this is similar to the railroad strike that the Biden administration had to step in and end just, I don't know, 6 months ago?
Yeah.
I forget when it was, but I mean, it was something just recently. Do you think it's similar?
I could see that. The only thing that the luxury of railroad is time. It's a slow mode of transportation.
No, I get that.
This is not. They are an overnight. I mean, I get it. Most of us think of UPS as a 2, 3, 4 day parcel service, but they're an overnight company.
I get that, but I think the difference here is the railroads are hauling freight across rails.
Yes.
You can't hire alternate rail cars to haul your freight across rails owned by a particular company. Whereas with this, with UPS, you can hire alternates to drive this
Not
freight.
when it comes to parcels. And you can't do 97% of a company.
No, last mile, you can't cover it all.
On the
Right. I mean,
on the volume they're talking, you can't cover it. Because this, from what I can tell, is mostly a driver strike. If you have
And we're talking last mile drivers and
Yes.
not
over the road.
what do you call
Or,
them, between spokes?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, there's a word for it. I can't think of the name of them.
Yes.
Okay, I get it. I see what you're saying.
So when
But
you're
are those packages that important that someone else can't take them? Are those
who's
packages,
going to take Who-
if my company,
UPS owns how many pickup and delivery
I
trucks?
get it.
I'm going to
I get
say
it.
30,000.
I get it, but if my company uses UPS exclusively right now to pick up and deliver my parcels, how hard is it for me to pivot to FedEx to pick up and deliver my parcels? It might be a little longer than UPS was doing it because I'm now overloading the FedEx system potentially. But
You'd break the.
but what my point is, with the railroads, there was no option. If I got a rail line that comes into my facility and loads 30,000 cars of coal every other day, I can't call. I forget what rail line it was striking, but let's call it Melissa's rail carrier is striking, right?
The Buttermilk Express.
Buttermilk Express. I can't then call the Chili Express and say, "Hey, I got these rail cars, and I got this coal I need to ship." Well, I can't then use Buttermilk Express's railroads, those lines that she owns, those actual rails that she owns, and put Chili's Express on there.
I think we're talking the same thing. Here's why. We're talking volume.
I get that.
You can move coal via truck. They do it all the time.
Yes, but the
volume, you would have to have tons of trucks.
Right.
You would have to have tons of trucks if their system went down. FedEx doesn't have enough to triple their infrastructure. Like that.
They would try.
They would try. Sure, they take advantage, but they couldn't.
They can't triple their infrastructure.
Trying
just
and
like
doing
that.
are not trying and doing are two different things.
They can't triple their infrastructure just like that. But if my package can't go UPS because UPS is striking, and my only option is FedEx, and FedEx can't get me a truck today, but they can get me a truck tomorrow or the next day.
I have a heart in a cooler. I can't wait 3 days.
But the heart in the cooler is not going FedEx or UPS.
Probably not. Okay.
It's probably going,
I have a drug
Jerry's
test.
Sprinter van service.
I have blood tests. Those do fly.
I get it
all the time.
I get it. But the FMCSA can say, hey, we're going to put a delay on that. That's okay. I hear what you're saying.
They could, but they could also say the same thing about coal. They could also say the same thing about gas, all the things that are moving
if I have
that way.
zero option to ship coal, because
zero options.
The rails that come into I have trucks. How many trucks can I get in my yard that can haul coal to haul the same amount that the train can haul?
We're saying the same thing.
No, we're not.
You can't get that many trucks that can haul the number of packages that UPS can haul.
With FedEx, you can.
I don't think you can.
It's going to be a lot less delay.
I love FedEx. I bleed purple,
delay.
But I'm telling you, they can't get that many trucks that quick.
But they don't need that many trucks. They already have the trucks.
They don't have
enough. Their trucks are now just making
extra.
extra stops.
They don't have the manpower. They don't have the infrastructure.
Again, it might take a 2 or 3 day delay. Where if I'm hauling, that much coal,
that's a 2 or 3 day delay on the first package. On the first
I
day,
get that.
On
I
day
get that.
2, you're 6 days deep. On day 3, you're 9 days deep.
I think FedEx can pivot a lot faster than you think.
I don't think,
even though you have a lot more experience with FedEx than I do.
I don't have any experience with pickup and ground or home delivery, but I'm telling you, I don't think FedEx has the infrastructure to be able to move that quickly. And the bigger thing when we're talking about this is the big how does this affect Expedite? Expedite, LTL, they work very closely together. When ABF was struggling because of COVID, Panther was able to pop in and help them out with that, which we didn't think they would. The labor unions were very strict on it, but they did let it happen because they needed to. They didn't have a choice. UPS Freight doesn't exist anymore. UPS has gotten rid of UPS Freight. They sold it off to XPO. Sorry. They sold off to XPO. So now XPO would basically have to strike to have an apples-to-apples comparison.
Right.
I don't think they're putting parcels on our trucks and shipping them across the country. I don't see that happening.
No, I don't see that
happening. It could. I'm never going to say it won't happen. We do that, the really hot holidays, your Black Fridays, that's pretty much the only one. We do see some of that parcel stuff end up on our trucks when it's really like such a huge volume of freight. So perhaps I'm going to say the collapse, even though it's a strike of UPS, could cause something like that to happen. Right. I also can't help but wonder if that happens, but UPS can still run their warehouses, they can still run their distribution, they can still run their airplanes. Are they not just contracting out to expedite companies saying, here's what we can fly. If you can get it here to our terminal, we'll be able to fly it somewhere back and forth. because UPS does a lot of business with Europe. They do a lot of business with Asia. So there's all of that stuff that's not dictated at all by the unions. It's still working just fine. So it does get in a very strict, sticky situation.
I can certainly see that happen. And I don't know if their package handlers at their facilities, at their terminals, are unionized or not. I'd imagine their pilots are unionized. I don't know. But if they are, do they stand in solidarity with the drivers? And when the drivers go on strike, these workers stop working as well. Because a lot of times you see that happen. If they're union members, even if they're not Teamsters, if they're members of a different union, chances are good that they don't cross the picket line and go to work.
Yeah, I don't know if Teamsters have anything to do in the aviation, but I do follow.
It doesn't matter.
But I do follow what you're saying. In civil aviation, or not civil, in passengers, commercial aviation, like we know it, it's easy because if the flight attendants are striking,
the pilots can't
fly. U.S. law says you got to have one per every 50 people, so you have to have one. Even when they're ferrying a plane, they have to have a flight attendant. Two pilots flying a plane from point A to point B still have to have a flight attendant.
With no passengers.
Yeah. Like, that is just U.S. law. When you've got, so it's easy for them.
Right.
They can stand in solidarity because not like they can go work anyways. But I will say it's a good example. Another good example with when you're talking about pilots and flight attendant stuff. They don't strike. They always authorize the ability to.
Sure.
They never do. When was the last time you saw? I mean, we can research it. I'm sure it's happened, but I can't remember the last time United Airlines went on strike.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last. I've heard a lot of chatter about it, but I can't remember the last time it happened.
Speaking of pilots,
yes,
and flight attendants, and the airline industry,
go on.
Let's talk about the plane of the week.
We do have to get to that, don't we?
We have to get to that.
It's written into our contract.
It really is.
And we don't have the Teamsters representing us.
Right, so we can't strike.
And
not do it until we don't have any more planes.
That's right. So, and then we just have to fly more. So, private company. Anyway, so the airplane of the week, of course, is a Hawaiian Airlines Boeing 717. Now, you may remember the Boeing 717 because we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
I picked this one for a couple of reasons. One, I thought, I mentioned the 717. I told you Hawaiian was the other major user of it. Qantas has some too, but they're getting rid of them. I don't think I'll ever have the chance to fly one with Qantas because I don't have any trips planned to Australia, and they're fastly pushing them out of the fleet. So I probably won't ever get to fly one of those. But you flew one 717, you flew them all. Anyways,
what are you doing next week? We can book a flight to Australia next week.
I have a lot on my plate, actually.
Okay, gotcha.
I'll be in Tennessee. So the Hawaiian 717, this is the one I think we have to mention on the podcast where they will take the seats out, put the fuel bladder in, fly it to America, get it fixed or serviced, and bring it back. Yeah. That's a lot of work for an oil change, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
So this is the plane. I love the livery on this thing. It is so cool. So same as last week. It's got two engines at the very back. It seats about 100 people. Short little wings. Not a crazy long plane. High T-tail wing structure in the back, and on the across the whole fuselage is this beautiful lay.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like in a chrome color, and then Hawaiian's written in purple, and dark purple. Looks really nice. But the back, the tail of the airplane. Oh my
goodness! Yeah, that's hot.
The face of a
Hawaiian princess.
Yes, and she's got the hibiscus in her hair. Yes. She's got the lei on and everything. It is remarkable how nice they've done their liveries. And you get that vibe. So I got the opportunity to fly on this a few years ago. Went down for a friend's wedding. And we ended up flying we had to go to Maui, but we flew into Honolulu.
Oahu,
thank you.
Honolulu.
Flew on to
Honolulu, yeah.
Because it was cheaper.
Yes.
And then going to Maui. And then we jumped on we literally walked out of the airport, like baggage claim, got our luggage, and walked right around the corner and rechecked everything back in. To Hawaii, so then went inside so that we could jump on this airplane to fly over to Maui. And it was great. I mean, these, again, they're super robust airplanes.
Yeah.
You just saw last week, we were talking about the landing gear on the nose failed.
Yep.
It hit the ground. Did you see the video I sent y'all
Yes.
of it actually happening from the inside?
inside,
You
yeah.
could not tell.
You couldn't tell.
Except for everybody
You
who was
really
doing the
couldn't.
brace position.
Yeah, but
The plane landed and touched the ground, and
Yep.
the nose hit the ground so delicately. They're such a great, robust.
you got to give credit to the pilot for that too.
Oh, yeah.
You
that
know,
was
his skills as a
incredible
pilot.
talent.
Yeah,
Yes.
amazing.
And so
Amazing.
one thing Delta does to be a first officer, like you come in as a first officer,
Mhm.
you do so many hours.
Also known as a co-pilot, right?
They are
but now
co-pilot,
they're
but they
first
are
officers
first
is their
officers.
official title.
So first officer official title. They got the 3 bands on their
Mhm.
on their shirts, and then when they become a captain, they get the 4th one.
Right.
But if you want to jump ahead of the curve, you can actually go fly a 717 because the cockpit's kind of cramped and small, and it's not very comfortable, honestly. And they do a lot of short jumps, but it's a easy way to get to captain quick.
Get your seniority.
You get your seniority in there quick. So a lot of
Interesting.
people will go that route. So a lot of the 717 captains are younger. They're not the 30 years of experience.
Right.
They're I got 2,000 hours of experience. I've only been flying for a couple years.
Right.
And so, they're not safe. They've flown 1,500 hours before
Sure.
they ever walked in
Yeah.
Delta's doors. So they're very, very safe. They've done a ton of flying. That's a testament to how good Delta is at hiring. Those guys landed the
And their
plane down with
training.
such finesse.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was a excellent situation where it was essentially a pretty bad wreck where everybody walked away,
Yeah.
including the airplane.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
By a fairly young pilot, you know?
Right.
So it's that was a cool situation. But these planes are very robust. They fly you out at just over the water. I mean,
Yeah.
like there's no reason to go
Why go
30,000
so
feet.
high?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're at like 6,000 feet.
If I go that high, I got to
Come
turn
back
around
down.
and come back down,
Yeah.
and it takes me twice as long.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you just jump over and you can see the blue water the whole time. You
Right.
can see all the boats. You can actually see people fishing like you're that close.
Nice.
And
Nice.
we landed in Hawaii and then did the reverse back when we got ready to leave. Inside, everything was light blue, very like tropical,
Yeah. Get you in
kind
the
of.
mood.
I think they had the luau music, lightly
Nice.
playing in the background. Of course, you
Nice.
get a lei. I
course
mean,
you
all
get a
that
lei.
quintessential Hawaiian stuff.
Yeah.
But it's such a short flight. They do a service on it, which shocked me. I didn't think they would. And they just walk out and they give you like a little, I don't even know what to call it. It's a little cup with a foil lid.
Yeah. It's
And-
got 2 macadamia nuts inside.
No. This it was a passion fruit
Oh.
cocktail.
Wow.
Which I mean, you know what I mean.
Sure.
No alcohol or anything, but it was delicious. You know,
Nice.
it's one of those things where like if you're at your house and you saw it in your fridge, you're like, I'm never drinking that.
Exactly.
But on the airplane in Hawaii, over the
Yeah.
blue water, with the flight attendants with the leis over
Sure.
their neck and the music in the background, you're like,
You're-
yeah, let's
you're ready
do that.
for the tropical destination and everything. Sure.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, I don't know if I've told you this before. It's kind of kept this a secret, but I'm really close to having the hours I need to apply at Delta for a pilot's position.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need only 1,500 hours more
Yeah. Okay.
to
well,
be able to apply. So I'm really close. Just want to let you guys know
it's
that.
not far.
It's not far.
away.
It's really not far.
No. But that is the airplane of the week. Great. Oh, so the reason, so that was A,
Right.
was the tie into last week. B, we've had, shall I say, a challenging week? We're not getting into it. We got into it last week. If you want to have a clue.
You know, have you ever woken up in the morning and gone to work 2 hours in, you just want to go home and crawl back in bed and
Yeah.
pull the sheets up over your head? And
Yeah.
That's been this week for me, especially this morning. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh,
break
no.
the table.
You ever,
This morning was rough.
for me too, you ever gotten up on a holiday
Yeah.
and driven a truck to
Anywhere?
anywhere
Yeah.
and then dropped the truck off, gone to bed, woke up, drove home, got up, or not got up,
Now I
drove
got back in the truck.
got back in a truck, drove a trailer over to a shop in town, got back to the lot, drove a truck out to a destination unknown, picked a truck up, drove it back, slept in your own bed, got up, drove out to this place,
Same place. Yeah.
picked up a truck, brought it back to a shop. It's just been, I hesitate to say it because I feel like I'm complaining. I'm not. We're doing what we're doing. I like it to a degree because it's very busy. and I like high stress situations. I always have. So I worked in the kitchen as a cook in college and high school. But I'm ready for a little calm. Ready for a little calm.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I'm never buying a used truck again, ever.
Promise?
No, but
you're recording this, aren't you?
Right.
Can you do me a favor and just cut that part and send me a snippet, please?
And B, I am because everything's really fine. It's these used trucks that are just because we talked about it last week, how we get everything up to our spec, and we really pay attention that if you get a truck that we bought used or new, you will never know the difference because we work so hard to make sure of that. But let me tell you, we work so hard is kicking our tail right now. I'm just so anyways, we're never buying used trucks again, and which means we might, who knows, but we're not buying as many used trucks at once. At one time.
Whew.
That's for sure. But also we are so that was the first thing. The second thought in my head was I'd like to be on that 717
Yeah.
on my way to Maui,
Yeah.
thinking about stopping at Costco and buying the groceries.
You're getting the macadamia nut
The
treats.
macadamia nuts.
Oh,
No, the poke bowl at Costco.
Pokeball.
At Costco.
The Pokeball.
And the little salmon on top of the
Oh,
spam
musubi
it's the spam
from 7-Eleven?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then
Spam never tasted so good.
it never did. It never. Yeah. And then getting out to the condo, unpacking, and then just walking out to the pool with the ocean in the background. Like I want to be there.
Yeah.
It's not an option.
Okay, stop, please.
It's not
Please
an
stop.
option. It's not an option.
Please stop.
It's not an option. It's not an option. But so that's kind of why I picked up the plane because I was like, this would be nice.
Yeah.
Will it be?
I gotta tell you something. A year ago,
Yes.
when you hired us,
And we were at base camp.
Buttermilk and I, for this position, and we were at base camp, literally at base camp. We turned a year official on the 1st of July, Saturday.
That is awesome.
Had you told me then I'd be here now, I may have rethought this whole thing. I had no idea. I mean, honestly, coming into it, we had a little bit of an idea of what you guys went through to put trucks on the road.
Yeah.
Now, I have a whole different perspective. There are some trucks that came back immaculate that still need some work. Easy. Cakewalk. In my sleep.
Yes.
In my sleep.
Uh-huh.
There are other trucks, one in particular in my head, that's been cleaned 3 times now for various reasons that we won't go into because we don't. Anyway, that's been a nightmare. Just a nightmare. And that's not a used truck that we bought. The used trucks are a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's opened my eyes.
Yeah.
It's been a fun year. It's been a challenging year. I realized in the last 2 weeks that I still have a lot to learn. Like, I feel like my title should have apprentice in front of it because that's how I feel, literally.
Yeah.
I learned so much in the last 2 weeks that I still have so much more to learn. It's been fun. It's been challenging. Knowing what I know today, would I tell you no a year ago? No, I'd say bring it on.
Yeah.
I'd say bring it on. So with that, thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your help the last couple of weeks. Obviously ongoing for the last couple of weeks, especially. Thank you, Jerry and Don.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry.
For your help.
Don.
Absolutely.
It's been just thank you. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate your help. Thank you, Buttermilk, for your help the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, and your support always. And Eric, thank you for your support and help as well. So just want to put that out there. It hasn't been a year for Buttermilk and I. I'm speaking for her as well because she's not on the mic. And thanking everyone for their support and everything that we do. It's been a lot of fun this year, and we look forward to many, 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 many more.
Yes. Well, I can't. It didn't feel like a year to me because this year has flown.
It really has.
Flown by.
It truly has.
It's very exciting to hear that milestone. And yes, y'all, your time here, Buttermilk's time here, it's been awesome. And to see the change even within you and your comfort level out in the yard and your being able to do, I mean, literally having to learn how do you introduce a team to their truck? How do you prep a truck? How do you, what vendors do we use? How do you go into those vendors and have them talk to you as a person who is representing a company and not as an owner, operator, driver, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah.
And so, like, all of that development, which is still ongoing, Buttermilk going from working with you in the yard to a few months ago switching over to recruiting and what she's doing, and it's been a fun ride.
It's been a lot of
I
growth.
know this past 6 months or 7 months has been difficult, and
Sure.
we've all had to work our tails off for it. But man, has it been fun!
It has been fun.
It's been
no
a
doubt.
really good difficult.
It has.
To change the mood a second, you and I were talking about something as we were doing sound check, a little bit about politics and
bit.
comedy,
Yeah.
and it kind of went all over the place,
Kind of did.
and we enjoyed where it went. So
It was a good conversation.
it was good conversation. We would like to get it was sound check, so there may be a couple places where Jerry has to bleep something out. We apologize
Sure.
for that, but
it's not our usual subject matter on this channel.
it's not.
But we think it was good conversation that we'd really, I think, would like to share.
Yes, I agree. It's a little polarizing, but not really. Not our conversation. The topic is.
The topic is, sure.
So we hope you take it knowing that we have a love for all people,
We do.
and
we talk about how we have opinions all the time, and we shared our opinions
yes,
other than what we normally discuss, and it is what it is.
it was interesting. We've talked about starting a second podcast to get into a little more of that kind of stuff. Curious what you think about it. Let us know in the opinions. That's the comments are, right? It's the opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
We would love to hear what you have to say. I know you're going to get our sign off in a little bit, but if you haven't already, please like this video or this podcast that you're listening to. Whatever the buttons are on your screen, push them.
Push them.
It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's a podcast or what have you. It does us a huge bit of service. We try to make these things enjoyable. We know that sometimes they're a little not. We have off days.
We
but,
enjoy them.
We enjoy them, yes. So, and we're going to be doing some stuff. We got some new lighting in here. We're working
Yeah.
on some new decor here
Yeah.
shortly. And we're really proud of this thing that we're building, and we just want to keep building it with y'all, and we want your opinions. So please let us know in the comments what you like, what you don't like.
Yeah.
Please send us an email. If you have anything you want to talk to us about, you can text us. You can go over to the Hyfield Trucking or the Outer Belt Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and you can reach out to us via there on their messenger platforms. Or if you'd like, you can email us at the outerbeltpodcast@gmail.com. That is the
Yes.
outerbeltpodcast@gmail.com. We love getting those emails. We love reading them, and they really do direct the content of the show. We also would like, if you enjoy what you hear, or if you don't, please share it with people around you. We hope that we put out something that people would be proud of and want to listen to. And we thank you for those of you that are sharing it, those of you that are letting other people know what we're doing over here. I think we have a great program within our company. I think Hyfield Trucking's on a very good trajectory. I think we're doing a lot of good in the world, and hopefully there's other people that want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And they won't know unless they hear about it. And I see a bunch of people sharing a lot of our content. And thank you for those of you that are. If you're not, if you like an episode,
Yeah.
throw it out there. Let people hear it. If you don't
Sure.
like an episode, don't.
Don't.
But we always appreciate all of that.
I think if you're listening as a podcast, I know an Apple podcast, it's not subscribe, it's follow now.
Yes.
But it is free to follow or subscribe, whichever option you have on your podcast app. Because we do put this out as a podcast, as an audio only version, so you can listen to us as you're running
Yes.
down the road. You don't have to watch on YouTube or Facebook. You can listen just to the audio. And we do our best to make it listenable, where you
Yes.
don't have to watch to know what we're talking about, except for the airplane of the week, which you can actually see on our Facebook page. We put a picture of it up so you can actually get a picture of what's going on there. But, if you're listening on a podcast app, whether it's Apple Podcast or Google Play or any other podcast app except for Spotify because it's going away, leave us a comment. You can't necessarily like us, but if you follow us, it downloads automatically to your device whenever we put a new one out, which is Saturday mornings. But yeah, that's also an option for you too, to listen to it as you drive down the road. Me too.
I was just talking to Kelly about how like I've completely quit watching Colbert.
I haven't watched Colbert since he took over the Tonight Show, late night.
Tonight Show.
No, Tonight Show is
Colbert. Nope.
no.
No. Tonight Show is Fallon.
Fallon.
You're talking about
The late
The
late
Show.
show.
the Late Show.
Yeah,
Is it Late Show?
Is it late show
I
or late
don't
night?
watch any of that.
Because he's never up that late.
Exactly.
He watches all the early morning
I-
national news shows.
Yeah.
I loved Colbert on the
I
Colbert
did too.
Report.
I really did.
Oh, he was so funny.
So funny.
Loved him. And then when he took over the Late Show, I thought he was friggin' hysterical.
Yeah.
And then his political humor took a
Mhm.
turn. I
did.
love political humor. I love making fun of politicians. I think it's a staple of American late night TV. You know, I remember as a kid watching Jay Leno make fun of Clinton and then make fun of Bush and then
Right.
make fun of Ross Perot and like all that stuff. Love it to death. I think it's great. He went to a dark, mean-spirited place where it wasn't, let me make fun of this person because I'm going to make a joke and we're going to poke fun. He went to, I hate you, and I'm
Right.
going to make everybody know how much I hate you. And I'm like, well, that's not funny anymore.
I
I'm
think-
not saying you're not entitled to your opinions. Please,
Right.
opinion all you want.
Sure.
I mean, you've got a successful show, and it didn't turn people off. So
Right.
obviously, it's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong per se. It's just not something I find entertaining. And at 11 o'clock at night, I want to be entertained.
Sure.
So I went elsewhere.
I think what he did with the Colbert Report was humor.
It was so
He-
satirical.
it was so
yes.
satirical, and he made an effort at being funny. It was humor. I
Yeah.
think he was that way when he first went to late night, where it was humor, and then it just became less about the. Obviously, the Colbert Report was a character, but it became less about that and more about what he thought was funny. But he was taking jabs, not even jabs, just straight up attacks on the right.
Yes.
You know, I think that what a lot of the problem with politics is today is that we get so entrenched in defending our side that we're blind to criticizing our side. We only criticize the other side. And by sides, I mean Democrats and Republicans.
Yes.
I think most of us have views that cross
Yeah,
over
I agree.
left, right, and center. But we get on that defensive and only defend our own, as opposed to saying, hey, you know, this whole thing that this guy that I'm a fan of did, that was not right. That's fucking stupid, right? Versus, oh, no, he can't do anything wrong. He can't do anything wrong. Everything he does is right because he's my guy.
Yeah.
And attacking the other side. And I think we've gotten away from that in the last 15, 20 years.
I think so.
So, I mean,
It's
I-
it's crazy to think it's been 20 years, but I think you're right. I think it's
I
darn
think
near
it
20
has.
years. I think, you know, especially the whole after Clinton, Bush, and who'd he go? Who was the first one he went out? Gore, Bush and Gore.
Bush and Gore, yeah.
And then it was Bush and
John Kerry.
Yes, John Kerry. Watching them all go after each other, it still felt sporty, and it seemed like you had two options people weren't crazy about, but people also didn't hate.
Right.
And then once you get Obama going with McCain, that I feel like that's when everything fell apart, and then it just amplified.
I think
from
in
there.
I think in a lot of ways what the problem was there, where it amplified so much between Obama and McCain, Obama was black.
Oh, 100%.
And the bigoted people were no way Obama at all.
Yeah.
Only voting for McCain. And once Obama became president, it came out even stronger.
Yeah.
You know, with the whole birther thing, and it was
I forgot about the birther thing.
yeah,
The first- yeah.
those people that had strong feelings against people of color
Yeah.
really went hard on anti people of color, or those people that had those feelings and were keeping them down. They started to express those more. 8 years of Obama, and we have Trump,
Yes.
where his thing was say what you want to say, and people were no longer afraid of the repercussions of saying
Yeah.
racist things, feelings that they've had that have been there. They've suppressed them because they were like, oh, I can't say that in public. And that became where they were like, oh, fuck, I can say whatever I want now because Trump is saying whatever he wants about Mexicans and whoever else, and I can go ahead and say it. And that became people felt like they could come out and say those things, and it's built over time. I mean, we go back to the civil rights era back in the '60s, and people were saying the things that they felt, and over time, more people were saying, "Okay, this is not right."
Yeah.
Now they have platforms where they can share these things, these feelings, and others can share those feelings as well. And I think that the message that I get from that is civil rights were a great thing. They helped a lot of people, but it didn't solve a problem. It didn't stop the racist thoughts and the racist feelings. It just suppressed them. And lately, they've been allowed to come back to the top and be free.
It's the whole when you have people coming to your house and you do the 20-minute scrub down, right? And so you walk people through the house and you're like, bathroom's over here.
Right.
We're going to be hanging out in the kitchen. The living room's here. Yada, yada, throw your stuff wherever. What's in that door? Don't open it under any circumstance because it's all of our crap in that one closet. And we're like, we're not going to let anybody open that door and see that.
Right.
And that's kind of what we were taught was all of those feelings that aren't popular, suppress them, get rid of them, negate them, stick them in a closet, forget they're there. And
we don't address the problems, the underlying issues. We just hide them. We took them away.
100%. And I think when you had the election and Obama came to office, a lot of America went, I didn't think this was possible.
Right. I
and
thought it
so
would never happen.
I thought this would never happen, so I never worried about it.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, we're losing. And it's like, it's not a color war.
No, it's
we're
not.
all Americans.
It's not.
Who was it? I think he's passed away now. Comedian, big guy, Ralphie May.
Ralphie May, yeah.
Talked
Funny.
about when he was over
Funny
in
dude.
Afghanistan right after 9/11 doing USO tours. The people that were attacking the military bases didn't care if you were black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American. They did not care. They just cared that you were an American.
Yeah,
you have that American badge on your shoulder, and that's all we see, and that's what we want to kill.
Yep.
And yet we ourselves can't see it that way.
You can't.
It's frustrating, and it's been an evolution. Internet hasn't helped. I mean, it's a great tool. Social media is a great tool. I'm a big fan of it. I know there's a lot of naysayers. You're not even huge on Facebook as much as I am. I still think it's a great tool. There's some negatives that came with it, but overall, I think it's a good thing. And there's no going back. So why even idolize this whole? It's literally until the zombie apocalypse happens. This is what we're at. So but it is frustrating to see that side of, again, go back to late night television, go from here's funny, and we're poking the bear on all sides and everybody because it's funny,
right?
To we're using comedy for hatred, like we're the thing that makes us laugh for hatred. It's just ridiculous, but. They say there's a lot of people that think that comedians are the modern day philosophers.
Okay.
And even in some cases, modern day pastors are comedians. And I don't know, they're wrong. It's kind of the last remaining group of people who have kind of a choice to say whatever they want, as long as it's funny.
But they.
And again, I think that's where Colbert forgot. He lost that. He lost me was that he lost the funny part.
But there are comedians who have been, what's the word? When you stop somebody from doing something, you kick them out of public
Canceled?
eye. Canceled, thank you. Comedians have been canceled for saying things that are funny.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
I was thinking Dave Chappelle, but actually the attempt to cancel Dave Chappelle over the trans comments that he made, and I got to be honest, I'm a big fan of Dave Chappelle. I have yet to watch that piece on Amazon or on Netflix. So I can't comment on what he said. I know the attempt was made to cancel him. It kind of didn't work. Well,
on one of the podcasts I listened to, they were talking about the new definitions in dictionary.com.
Uh-huh.
And they always do this. They always talk about what the Oxford Dictionary is doing, what who's the other one in America that's really famous? Merriam-Webster
Right.
and dictionary.com. They always talk about what are the new words, what are the new phrases they're putting in there, and it's always funny. I mean, so much stuff is just like, really? That's what we're putting in? Okay. But they said sometimes they'll do new definitions. So we'll take a word, it will make a new definition about it.
Okay.
And so they said woke is now can be used in a negative. Like, so, awake, as you would take it, as we would all take it at face value, as you're not asleep. Then it took on the whole, it's because you are paying attention to what's happening in the political environment, to the social environment, right? They shortened that to woke because it's a representation of your trying to be politically correct, right? Basically, in a nutshell. And I know it's deeper than that, but that's a short, easy way of putting it. To now, people are saying like, "Oh, that person's woke. Look what happens when you're woke."
Right.
You look at Budweiser. They're saying the whole thing with Bud Light is because they're a woke company, and so now it's saying that it can be used as a negative. So it's just responding. It's not making commentary. It's just responding to what's happening. And they were saying, "Where's the new definition for canceled?" The new definition for canceled needs to be when political culture or politically correct culture tries to cancel you and you come back with a multi-million-dollar television deal from HBO, Netflix, or Hulu.
Right.
And I thought it was hysterical because they're right. It's like freaking Louis C.K. went out and all the stuff that happened to him, and he's got new specials coming out.
Sure. I think Louis C.K. is a different...
It's very different. I don't want to compare. I do not want to compare him to Chappelle.
Right.
They are totally different situations, but it's still the cancel thing, right? So that's where I want you to look.
Sure.
Because even Cosby, and I think at this point everybody agrees he's guilty. Like at one point there was still denial. Is this a cash grab? Are these people looking at fame, fortune, whatever? At this point, we pretty much get Mr. Huxtable.
Yes.
Is an evil man.
Evil man.
And Dr.
Huxtable,
how dare I? I am so sorry.
He was a gynecologist too.
I know.
My goodness.
We all know he's walking because of a legal freaking mishap.
Yeah. A technicality.
A technicality, thank you. Which is frustrating because it's like on one hand, we have a great judicial system that does protect you against abuse.
Right.
But every good con man is going to find loopholes.
Sure.
And his lawyer, I'm not saying his lawyer's a con man, he took advantage of a legal situation and was able to get a guilty man free.
Isn't that this lawyer's job, though? I mean, you wonder why people who are obviously guilty...
And he was found guilty by a jury of his peers.
Yes. You wonder why people who are obviously guilty, they were caught with the gun in their hand committing the crime. They plead not guilty, and they have a defense attorney who actually will defend them, right? And you wonder about that, but that's the way our system works.
And it should.
And it should work that way.
Yeah.
We may not agree with the outcome all the time. However unfair we think our system is, I think it's the fair system that we have.
Absolutely.
And it works both ways, for and against. And it's frustrating. I mean, we can sit here and talk about all kinds of things that we think are unfair in the system on both sides, right? For the defendant, against the defendant. But we've tried to improve it. We're still, I think, trying to improve the system. It's just hard. It takes time, and it takes work, and it's hard to do.
It does.
So
it does. And you see your super, I'm going to call them super villains that walk.
Yeah.
I mean, Epstein killed himself. I'm not sure he would have gotten convicted because of the same situation that Cosby had. He's got billions of dollars behind him and has the ability to hire lawyers to dig through the case to go,
right,
Your Honor. And the legal system has to go like, crap, you're right.
Yeah. Somebody somewhere along the line screwed something up.
Somewhere. When you got a case that big, someone messed up somewhere.
Yep.
And so that's the frustrating thing is I don't want to say you can buy yourself out of trouble.
But you kind of can.
But you kind of can.
I mean, look at the bail system in our country. if you get arrested for
Oh, I'm thinking like I was like, where do you go with this? Southwestern Bell, Pacific Bell, Atlantic Bell.
Not Ma Bell and her babies, but the bail system.
Yeah.
If you get arrested for a crime, whether you committed it or not, and you can't afford to post bail, you sit in jail until your trial comes up.
Correct.
And if you're found not guilty in that trial, you're set free, but you may have spent 2, 3, how many years in jail before that trial came
Absolutely.
up as an innocent person because you couldn't afford to post bail.
Well,
if you have money, if you have the means, you guilty or innocent, you can post that bail, get out, and continue on with your life. You may have conditions of the bail. You may not be able to travel internationally. You may have to wear an ankle bracelet and stay within a certain area, but you can still get on with your life. You're not losing time off your life for a crime you didn't commit. Maybe you did commit the crime, but if you're innocent, you're still stuck in jail. Now, there's a lot of people that are working on bail reform because it's an inherently unfair system if you don't have money, but it's still a reality that if you have money, if you have the means, you can hire high-powered attorneys that have time to work on just your case versus a public defender, that has a massive amount of cases and they don't have time to keep researching your case and keep working on your case. They take what's given to them and they look at it and go, yeah, you should take the plea versus we need to fight this.
Absolutely.
They just don't have time or the resources to do it. If you're an Epstein or an O.J. Simpson or a Bill Cosby and you have that money, you have a better chance of finding that loophole, even if you're guilty.
Yeah, I think so too. And then when you look at the statistics over people who are bailed out versus not bailed out over winning, the percentage of winning your case.
Right.
It's like I've told Eric this. If I ever get arrested for anything, bail me out. Find a way to get me out because your odds, innocent or guilty, that who cares about that?
Right.
We're not even talking about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about I drove a red Ford F-150 and I ran over Grandma and they arrested me. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe someone in a red Ford F-150 ran over Grandma and I happened to have a red F-150 and they arrested me.
Yeah.
Like, none of that matters. If they arrest me, bail me out immediately.
Yes.
That dramatically increases the odds of a better outcome. Like, it's crazy.
Well, and you also have the opportunity at that point to help your attorneys, with your defense, as opposed to waiting for them to come to court. Come to the jail that you're in and share with you documents. If they even do that, share with you documents and ask you questions and help and try and get your help. Yeah. That's a limited amount of time. But if you're out on bail, a technically free person to do what you need to do, you have more time to help. In that case, we haven't even talked about the racial implications of all of this as well, which I think a lot of folks are aware of, so we don't have to go into that because we don't want to make this a race thing. It's just really just a fairness of the system overall on a very basic level.
I do, the race side thing is huge. I mean, the people that I know I have firsthand knowledge from, race doesn't play into a factor. It's socioeconomics that play into a factor. Yeah. But that's just my experience. I know that statistics don't agree with that.
No, but I know I said just now we wouldn't go into the race thing. Socioeconomics certainly play a part of it, a huge part of it. Yeah. Race plays a part in, I think, a different way. Yeah. If you have money, we talked about O.J. and Bill Cosby, black, right? People of color, they had the money they were able to take to get out. So that part where the race doesn't take place. I think in your situation where I shouldn't say your situation, you're hypothetical, driving a red pickup truck. You happen to have one you didn't have anything to do with, grandma getting run over, versus the other person in a red pickup truck. When you have a person of color identified as the suspect, well, people of color then are targeted potentially as that criminal, and can be brought in just based on your person of color. We're going to go out and get you. But I don't want to make this a race thing because we can go on and it's we've already gotten pretty deep. Yeah.
So about late night comedy shows.
Yeah. So how this whole thing started?
Was that?
I haven't watched. I don't know. I haven't watched a late night comedy show in a long time. I don't have TV.
Oh, so I actually went and bought. I subscribed to CBS, so I could actually watch Colbert.
Okay.
Because I did admire him so much on the
Right.
Colbert Report, and I did want to see what he would do taking over such a momentous role. I mean, Letterman had that role for a long time.
Very long time.
And they renovated the theater and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's where I wanted to. And again, at some point, I looked at it and went, "Why am I paying $5 a month to listen to someone? If I agree with you, if I disagree with you, none of that's the point. They don't entertain me anymore. They're not funny.
If that's what you're watching for is that entertainment,
Yeah.
it's not worth
Which I
it.
think is what you use late night TV
Sure.
for. That is entertainment.
Yep.
There are other places where politics and it's I want to go there for the learning of politics or
Sure.
whatever. I don't want my late night. I'm tired. I want to turn my brain off and watch a little TV before I go to bed to
Yeah.
be that place.
I get it.
And if I do, I want to
get
go to like see a TED Talk or pull up a documentary or look at CNN or Fox News. You know, there's a new service out that I've been thinking about trying. They do sponsorships for podcasts, and it's
It might help if you knew who they were. Sounds like their sponsorships aren't working.
they are working. I can
You don't
picture
know
it.
the name of them.
They vet news sources and news articles,
Okay.
and they tell you how far left or how far right
Gotcha.
the news article is, so that you can be able to pull together a balanced opinion, or read an article from a news source that's fairly well balanced and not leaning
Not
one way
left
or the
right.
other.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I've been thinking about checking them out because I do appreciate that whole get a bigger picture. I don't know that it's healthy to only stick to Fox News or only stick
I
to
agree.
CNN or only stick to MSNBC
Right.
or only stick to Al Jazeera. It's got to be you have to find a way to get multiple viewpoints to make an informed decision.
I completely agree.
So
I completely agree. I think if you're watching just one side and not getting the other side, the other opinion, you're doing yourself a disservice by not understanding where someone else is coming from.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand their perspective or their views, but understanding where they're coming from a lot of times helps to form an opinion that's more than just strictly one-sided.
well, that's all the show we have for you.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun.
I appreciate your hanging out with us. Listen, if you get the chance to
Come hang out with us in a couple of weeks
in a couple weeks in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum.
Now, this show is coming out a little late, so it is only a couple of weeks away. So if you're listening to this past July 21st or 22nd,
Yeah, don't bother showing
you
up
missed
until
it.
2024.
Yeah, we'll be there hanging out. Be a fun time. Come
Yeah,
see us.
good
It's
times.
gonna be a big truck show.
Yep.
Lots of people there. If you've been to Matt's, it's gonna be a very tiny truck show.
It is.
But this
But
is
more
a
intimate.
more intimate, better
yeah.
conversations, more times to hang out. There'll be a lot more partying, a lot more fellowship,
Yeah,
socializing,
Yep.
eating
Bonding.
food. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I encourage everybody to come out and see us. We're going to be at booth 413. We're going to be sponsoring Casino Night. Casino Night is on Friday night, and it is basically we're bringing the casino to the show.
Yeah.
And they're bringing out all the board games. They're bringing out the craps, the roulette.
I don't think there's going to be any board games there. Like, we're not going to play Monopoly.
They're bringing out the Clue.
Is there going to be Sequence there?
Is Clue the original escape room? Anyways, so they're bringing out Sequence.
Yeah. I mean, it's got dice. No, it
Hey!
doesn't. It has cards.
So
It has cards, no dice. Does Sequence have dice? No, it
Craps
doesn't.
does though.
Craps. do,
So
yeah.
they'll have the roulette wheel. They'll have the poker tables. They'll
Yeah.
have the blackjack tables. It's a lot of fun. They won't have any slot machines. Jerry's very upset about that. We'll talk to him about it for next year.
Jerry's bringing his keychain slot machine with
That's
him.
right. I think it's gold plated, isn't it? And it's going to be a lot of fun. I highly encourage you, if you are listening to this and you're interested in going, come out and see us. It'll be a fun time.
It is free to register, free to show up. You have to pay for
Yes.
parking.
You have to pay for
If
parking.
you park
It's between $16 and $18 a day.
for a tractor
For
or
a track-
RV or straight truck.
Yep. And
Yep.
then it's going to be $6
Between $6 and $8.
$6 and $8 a day for.
Cars, motorcycles, pickup trucks.
That's right.
Yeah.
And now, if you go there and you leave your vehicle there, you only pay once. So it's not a you have to pay over and over and over again every time you leave, or every day. As long as you stay there. If you get a hotel and you're driving your car back and forth, you will have to pay every time you leave.
Yes, you will.
So, but the show is free. Go to expeditexpo.com and register. It's a lot of fun. We look forward to seeing you there. And yeah, if you are planning on going and you want friends and family to go with you, invite them.
Yeah.
Reach out on social media. But if you go to Hyfield Trucking Facebook page or Expedite Expo's Facebook page, they have lots of advertisings on there. Grab one of those advertisements. It's as a post and share it. And let your friends and family know that's where you're going to be going. And if they want to come hang out and meet us, introduce themselves, or have us introduce ourselves to them, meet some of the other YouTube channels you've all grown to love and appreciate. We're all going to be there. We're all going to be hanging out. It's going to be a great time. Yeah, I just can't wait for it to get here. It's going to go by so fast too.
It really is.
It's going to be.
It's going to be here and done.
Yeah.
And you're going to wonder where it went.
Yeah. And I know some of the trucks that are going to be there for you to look at. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think
Really?
you're really, really going to like it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
That's all I got for you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It has been fun.
It's been fun.
In the meantime, everybody,
don't leave money on the table.
Be safe. Make good decisions.
And keep those wheels a turning.
Bye.